So let's say you found a skeleton. How would you tell it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Kent with Bent 82, I think? This is 82, right?
Yeah. 82.
The Dummy 2. The first time we used art based on the Boris Karloff The Mummy, but this time we went with the, was it 1999 The Mummy with Brandon Fraser as one of our friends likes to say. First, before we really get into this, I want to say thank you to an anonymous fan who sent me a monitor. So I am now streaming with a 3-monitor setup, and it is so much easier to make sure I have everything set up the way I want it to. And like I don't actually have to switch between windows. They're all just right there. And none of them have to be like completely covering up the other ones, which was not the case before. This is a much better setup for me. So thank you very much to whomever you are. I think you also sent me a little rocket ship, like retro rocket ship shaped air blaster thingy that helps clean out my keyboard, because there's gunk under there, and, you know, I don't want to take my keyboard apart every time. I just want to give it a little quick cleaning, and so that helps. Yeah, it's one of those. I think mine is slightly bigger, though. Like, we compared them, and I got a slightly bigger one than you do. Mine's like an inch taller. Very fancy.
Yep. It's an inch bigger.
All right. So, guys, I hope that you liked the newish intro. So I changed up the Dapper Dinosaur text a little bit. But other than that, we are here to do Kent with Bent. So for those of you who might not have been here before, and I say this especially today because I do see some new names, Kent with Bent is a show/drinking game where we make fun of Kent Hovind and tear apart his horribly dumb takes on almost everything. Also, with 28 votes, we had a poll that said, who's the better Hovind? 17%. I don't know, my computer's making some sound about complaining about OBS. I don't know, it said OBS disconnected. I haven't seen any disconnection from OBS, so whatever.
I saw it buffer, and then I saw it stop buffering.
Oh, well. Sorry about that, guys. Let's see. So, Kent with Bent, we have some drinking rules. Now, first we have to say, if you choose to play Kent with Bent with an alcoholic beverage, please drink responsibly. Playing along, don't then go out and operate any heavy machinery, or drive, or fly an airplane, or text your ex, anything like that. Don't do it. Not worth it. Also, this is your warning. You're responsible for this. We are not accepting any liability or responsibility for you playing this game and then causing death, dismemberment, grievous bodily injury to yourself or others, or any destruction of property, yours or that of others. You are responsible for your own actions. You know your limits, and if you don't play with alcohol. That being said, we have some drinking rules. First up, we drink whenever Kent Hovind says something that's so stupid we just kinda have to, so that our brains don't melt. That's our most common one. We also drink whenever Kent Hovind gets something that's actually factually accurate without it just being a direct quotation from someone else. That's our least frequent drinking criterion. We'll also drink whenever Kent Hovind tells a story that just didn't happen, or as we say, you know, he tells a story that's just him pretending his shower thoughts are real, or confusing his shower thoughts for reality. We're not sure exactly how delusional versus dishonest Kent Hovind is in those cases. We will also take a drink whenever Kent Hovind mentions the goings-on of the National... Oh! We got interrupted. We take a drink whenever Godzilla or Mothra stop by. So we'll take a quick drink for Godzilla. There you go. So, whenever Kent Hovind talks about the goings-on or the major figures or leaders of the National Socialist German Workers' Party, especially things to do with the 1930s or 40s, we take a drink for that, because boy howdy does he like to talk about those guys. It's almost like he admires them or something. We'll also take a drink. This is related to the Godzilla. If any of my channel members, there's a link down in the description, or not down in the description, just below this video to join if you want to. And if you join, you gain access to the channel emojis. If you send a super chat that includes the King Ghidorah, the Godzilla, or the Mothra emoji, or any combination, take a drink for that. And that's just because, look, you're joining the channel, you're supporting the channel, but also I can't just then let you make me drink for free, because my goodness, I know some of you wouldn't stop until we have to call an ambulance to drag me out of here. So, yeah. Especially since, you guys, it's hard to coordinate. So, the other option, though, is if you, in fact, super chat something to the effect that AIG are a bag of dicks, we'll drink for that. Gotta be careful, though, because YouTube will censor that. So, you can do things like translate it into an obscure language that hopefully I know enough of to know that that's what you're doing. Or you can use euphemisms or wordplay, things like that. It's just fun. The reason we do that one is because AIG likes to copyright claim any video that uses any of their videos immediately. Many Karen for 15 shekels says, AIG are a bunch of lofats, which is Hungarian for a horse. Oh, there you go. So there's our first one of those drinks. Thank you very much, Many Karen, for the 15 shekels. All right, and with that, I think we're ready. Bent, did I miss anything?
I feel like we missed
I missed if Kent tells a joke that doesn't land. We missed that one.
And I don't think you mentioned the predictions.
Oh, yeah. If Bent or I make a prediction about where Kent is going to go, and he actually does go there, and it was not obvious, we'll take a drink. Like, if it's like, oh, I think he's going to say evolution is stupid. Yeah, well, he always says that. That's not a surprise. There has to be some kind of question. But, there we go. All right, guys. Only almost 10 minutes into the stream, we're going to actually get some Kent.
Yay!
Fascinating. If you look at the way the chambered nautilus here, these critters we got in the museum here, if you look at the way the shell curled.
Oh, I forgot. He was just telling us about how the golden spiral is everywhere, and Fibonacci sequences are important. He didn't say Fibonacci, he said Fibonacci. So,
Fibonacci or Fibonacci.
The shell follows a curl of a Fibonacci sequence.
See, there it is, Fibonacci sequence.
You look at the bottom of a pine cone, you see it's got scales, scales on the pine cone. If you count the scales, they spiral both directions.
Sorry?
Are they called scales on a pine cone?
I don't actually know, but I also don't know what they are called. So, if anyone wants to Google what the things that make up a pine cone are called, those individual...
I'm not going to do it.
Then, I mean, let me know.
Yeah. At the same time, kind of interesting. How can they spiral both directions? But they do.
It's not that interesting. There's this thing called a phyllotaxis spiral, and it is related to the number 5, which is it's the ratio that the Fibonacci sequence ratios from adjacent numbers approach as the Fibonacci sequence approaches infinity, and it has the interesting property that if you put things in a spiral and they are rotated by this many, I think it's radians, you can very tightly pack a 2D space with this. In fact, I've done it in some of my art where I used the number 5, or, well, a close approximation of the number 5, because I'm only doing a finite number of instances, to get what's called a phyllotaxis spiral. And it can also be subdivided into a number of smaller spirals because of the way it filled the space. You can also trace smaller spirals that are spiraling by I think it's whole number divisors of this. It's a whole big complicated mathy thing, and I don't always understand it as well as I need to. But then I just look it up and then I get it right. Goop23 says AIG is a Unchbe of Ix. Oh, there we go. Unchbe of Ixday. Got it. Pig Latin. Take a drink for that one. Thank you very much.
Tesla Ranger says, yes, they are called scales.
They
so
are called scales. Oh.
Drink for Kent getting something right.
All right. Yeah. Hey, you know what? Good job, Kent. I didn't know that. This is one of the few episodes where Kent Hovind has actually taught me something.
Let's not forget KJV get title.
True. In case you guys don't get that, Kent Hovind, we read his dissertation in a 6-part miniseries on this channel. It was brutal. It was also hilarious. But in at least one place, his citation for a Bible quote is just KJV get book title, which we usually shorten to KJV get title.
Well, he had both.
Oh, did he do both?
Multiple. He had a lot of them. He had 6 or 7 of those.
It's It's really, it's embarrassing to
It's
just read
ridiculous.
it. Yeah. This would have failed like an 8th grade writing class, basically. And for one thing, it's not finished. It just ends.
It just stops. It doesn't end, it stops.
Yeah, it just stops. There's a last page and that's it. And then you're just like, oh, I guess we're done now. All right, here we go.
Count the number of scales one way and the number of scales the other way, it'll be a Fibonacci sequence number. You look at the center of a sunflower, and the seeds in the sunflower are arranged in spirals going both directions. Very interesting.
Okay, so here's the thing about the phyllotaxis spiral, right? Plants don't know what they're doing. They can't plan out their growth patterns. But what they can do is create growth patterns that are genetically coded by things like the gradients of various hormones and things like this, right? And the thing is, we know, based on experiments with plants, that their growth patterns can be changed by mutations. We also know that plants usually have a premium on space for any given structure. So there's a strong selective pressure for when you need to tightly pack as many instances of some structure, like flower petals or stamens or whatever, that you're going to have to use a spiral similar to the phyllotaxis spiral. So any mutation that gets you there is strongly selected for. Any mutation that takes you away from there is strongly selected against. And all we need is to know that 1, mutations can affect this, which we do, and that 2, there's an optimum spiral, and natural selection will obviously get us there. And the thing is, that's the kind of natural selection that Kent doesn't reject. Like, Kent is okay with that kind of variation within, like, this small-scale shape of an organism that doesn't make it a different kind of organism, quote-unquote. So, like, if you had a mutant sunflower that followed a different spiral pattern, Kent wouldn't say that that's proof of evolution because it's no longer a sunflower. So there's no particular need to invoke design in this case. But the problem is that that's also the case for, well, just about everything. So in biology, obviously there's a need to invoke design in other things.
It really seems like, interesting, and that's all this is.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Well, it's a
what he's getting at. He's not making a conclusion.
I
think that he thinks he's implying one, but he isn't.
There's a collection of creationist arguments which are all basically the same argument, and that argument is cool things exist, therefore nature couldn't have made them, therefore God had to. And the problem is that doesn't follow. Nature can make cool things. So, yeah. And it's the same argument basically as, look at the trees. It's like, that's not going to convince anyone who doesn't already think that the trees are the direct product of designed by a god. It doesn't work as an argument. All right, here we go.
Count the number of seeds in the spiral. It'll be a Fibonacci sequence.
Look, if you just count up the seeds, it's not going to be a sequence. It's going to be a single number. You could say it's a Fibonacci number, Kent. That might work.
The ratio of the length of your forearm to the height of your body. I don't know, there's thousands of Fibonacci sequences hidden, the golden mean ratio, hidden in the human body.
Okay, if you're willing to compare the length of all sorts of things to all sorts of other things on your body, I am sure that you can come up with a whole bunch of them that have a ratio that's basically phi. But you could also do the same thing for pi, or tau, or 4, or the natural number, or whatever, because there's a lot of different parts of your body, and if you're able to just arbitrarily choose where and when you measure, then great, you're going to find all sorts of cool mathematical things. It's like the Bible code, right? In the Bible code, people take the text of usually it's just the Old Testament, in Hebrew, and they get rid of any spaces between words or any other punctuation marks, and then they set that in big blocks, and they say, okay, if I skip this many letters, do I find anything? The thing is, when you decide to get a gigantic block of text in any language, and you can search any number of skips anywhere in there, yeah, you're going to find coincidental codes. That's why there at least was, I'm not sure if it's still operating, a website called the Moby Dick Code, where an author took the text of Moby Dick, which is a very large book, cut out all the spaces and punctuation marks, and then determined, oh, hey, you know what? If I'm allowed to just do any pattern I want to find something that I find meaningful, I can find all sorts of creepy predictions about the future embedded in the text of Moby Dick. Yeah, it's just because a random amount of block text like that, you're going to get weird you're going to get seemingly meaningful stuff if you're allowed to have any search criteria that you could possibly think of. Now,
Or you could do something productive with your time.
well, yeah. So yeah, it's not actually very interesting that you can find measurements for your body size of various organs and structures that you can get some with the ratio of 5. I mean, it's not significant at all, on its own at least. If you could do it all over the place, if you were like, oh, you know, between the height of your head and your nose is phi, and between the height of your ears and your nose is phi, and between the height of your front teeth and your ears is phi, and then between the height of your head and the height of your whole torso is phi, and then the height of your torso and the height of your legs is, then okay, great, that would be interesting, but that's not the case. So we'll keep going.
Off track a little bit, but it's interesting. Rabbit to chase.
Yeah, it is off track, Kent.
Animals, you see this in animals, you see this all over. The pentagram, the 5-pointed star, the 5-leaf petal flowers, you know, follow this Fibonacci sequence.
Yeah, because 5 is a Fibonacci number. I mean, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. So yes, Kent. I'm just gonna drink. Hey, if you find a Fibonacci number, you found a Fibonacci number. We're aware, Kent.
We can go on all day on that. Anyway,
You could go on all day.
galaxies
Yeah.
have a perfect spiral ratio that is a Fibonacci, a golden mean ratio.
It's not a galaxy. It says it right there. Supernova 1987A rings. Come on, Kent. Just taking a drink.
All astronomical pictures are galaxies. Just like if it's redshifting, it's a star, not a galaxy.
Do you think Kent has any awareness?
Also, he said he doesn't believe in black holes.
Well, yeah, you did say that. Do you think Kent has any awareness that there's more than one kind of object in the sky?
Also, he thinks the planetary nebular hypothesis and the Big Bang are the same thing or whatever.
Yes, he does. Smitty in the chat says he has no idea what a galaxy is. It's true, he doesn't. He clearly doesn't. This is a supernova remnant, not a galaxy, Kent. This is what you call a planetary nebula.
But it's in a galaxy.
It is in a galaxy. That's true. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I was expecting him to just put up like the Whirlpool Galaxy or something, but no.
I didn't even notice he said galaxy. Honestly, it just went right in one
Oh
ear
my
out the other.
goodness. Okay, I'm gonna have to calm down from this one. Oh man. All right, Kent. Let's hear you talk about galaxies while showing us a supernova remnant.
But the stars in the middle are going faster than the stars at the outside,
Well, there are no stars on the inside of that picture.
which means they would have lost this spiral shape. Within a few billion years, they would not be spiral shaped.
Okay, so this is actually an interesting question. So, we all know that there are, in fact, spiral arm galaxies. Kent's right about that. The fact that he can't tell that a supernova remnant isn't a galaxy? Hilarious, but not technically relevant. Okay, so. Where was I? Oh, right. So, the spiral arms are not a coherent set of individual objects that are all orbiting simultaneously. They're actually a standing wave, and objects enter the spiral arm and then exit it. And this is kind of like, Bent, have you ever used a spirograph?
Yes.
Okay, so if you guys have used a spirograph, you know, there's a set of gears within gears, and you put your pen in one of them, you move it around, and assuming that you do it right and you don't let off the pressure, you get these really cool patterns. But one of the things you notice about the patterns is that they have dense spots. But that wasn't because there was a bunch of little pen dots that form them. Your pen is smoothly moving around in a pattern. And it just so happens that at certain areas, things kind of just bunch up. The same thing is happening. Now, this can be caused by things like companion galaxies, and, oh, drink from Mothra. There's a whole bunch of potential causes for this. But none of them involve it being a coherent set of stars that move in a spiral shape through the galaxy. And the way that we can tell this is that we can actually watch things enter the spiral arms slowly through time, and also simulations of the orbits of galaxies that are then sort of shepherded by companion galaxies automatically result in spiral shapes. So the spirals don't spin around the galaxy the same way that the stars and dust do. So there you go. Oh, hey, Evidence and Reason is here. Hello, Sal. Everybody say hi to Sal. Sal is, of course, this channel's, I think, favorite young Earth creationist. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's certainly the only.
Hi, Sal.
He's certainly the only young Earth creationist to have been a guest on Kent with Bent.
Yes.
That's a big distinction. Minnie Karen for 15 shekels says AIG are a bag of Herman Melville novels. You named the book and inspired me. You drink. All right. I'll take a drink. Man, you know, I'll be honest, I've never actually gotten through Moby Dick. It is such a long book, and for most of it, so little happens.
I never tried to read it. I'm not interested in.
I remember early on, Ishmael is like hanging out with his Native American roommate, waiting for the ship to like pull out to sea or whatever, and like his roommate guy pulls out some like fetish statue and starts offering a prayer, and there's this whole big section about Ishmael's internal dilemma as to whether he should be not rude or whether this counts as idolatry and it's gonna like damn his soul. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, I don't care. But maybe that's just me. All right, here we go.
Why do we have spiral galaxies?
Well, because of things like gravitational effects of satellite galaxies, like we said.
The Walt Brown's book, In the Beginning, which is in the library there, in the bookstore there, he's a PhD in physics from the Air Force Academy, taught there for years. He now lives in Phoenix, Arizona. His website is creationscience.com. You can read the whole book right on his website, or you can buy it for like $25 or something. Have you read that one yet, Chris?
Okay, we have to find out, does creationscience.com still exist? Give me a second, guys. We're going to figure this out. So, okay. Creationscience.com. Well, probably don't. Whatever, doesn't matter. Creationscience.com, okay. Center for Scientific Creation. In the Beginning. Oh. Online book. Yeah, hey, you know what? It does still work. Neat. All right, guys. So if you want to read Walt Brown's book, I would suggest doing it for free because, my goodness, should you not give $20 for that nonsense?
Excellent book. Load, you can read it forever. I mean, load it with notes. I mean, you can bog down forever.
Oh, yeah, you know what? Queequeg was Polynesian, not Native American. Thanks, Tesla Ranger. Can you tell how long it's been since I tried to read that book? About 20 years.
That book. He does one thing with his life. He rewrites that book. He's on his 7th edition now, and he's spending 6 more years rewriting it again, adding more stuff, you know, fine-tuning, tweaking. I mean, it's an amazing, amazing book. Anyway.
I wonder if he's bothered to take out all the things that are wrong, or if that would leave him with a pamphlet, and so he hasn't bothered.
I disagree with Walt on a couple things, and I told him so. Met him at the airport in Phoenix for several hours and said, brother, I love you very much. I sell your book, and you know I'm one of your fans. However, you're wrong about this and this and this. Okay, a few little minor things. But he doesn't believe in a canopy theory, for instance, the canopy before the flood. You know,
because it's physically impossible. Okay.
You have to tell him he's wrong
He
on
would
that.
Yeah.
Make sure you correct him.
Oh, man. Scott Duke for $1.99 says, AIG is a fully packed dong duffel. I like the alliteration. We'll take a drink.
Not be King James like I would be. But still, great book. He's got a good section in there about spiral galaxies and how they prove the universe is not billions of years old.
The way they do that is by not proving it.
Stars are blowing up.
Take a drink. That was true.
It's called a supernova if it's a big one, or a nova if it's a normal one. Stars blow up all the time. About every 30 years, 25 to 30 years, a new supernova is discovered. Okay? ICR, Institute for Creation Research, had an article, an impact article they call it. By the way, if you don't have those, you should get them in your library. They're free. If you get on their mailing list, they're on number, I don't know, 390 now or something like that. They've been doing it one a month since September, or since, I don't know, 1974, I believe. I've got them all in the library there if you want to look at some of the old impact articles. They're amazing. So if they're 10 cents a piece, okay? So for $39, you could get all the back issues if you just send them 30 or 40 bucks.
Free,
send me all
or
the back
they're
issues.
10 cents a piece.
Yeah, maybe they're free on the website or something. I don't know. Although, honestly, I kind of wish Kent would stop trying to just shill for books. Like, is he getting a commission on these purchases? I hope so, for his sake. For how much shilling he's doing. Well, that's fair to say. It's not fair to say shilling. Because to shill usually implies that you're keeping it a secret that you're employed by whoever it is you're shilling for. So, advertising for. Technically be more accurate.
Of the Impact articles. Amazing reading in those things. But they said an Impact article in 1998, I believe it was an Impact article, had this. They said, astronomers have observed about every 30 years a star dies and explodes into a supernova. If the universe is billions of years old, how come there are less than 300 supernova, dead stars, ever discovered?
Okay. Let's put on our thinking caps. Let's say I said that every 2 seconds, an ant dies. But I've only seen a few hundred dead ants in my life. Where are all the dead ants? Any ideas there, Bent? How come there aren't trillions of dead ants right in my field of view?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. There's more than just your field of view.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that would maybe eat dead ants. There's lots of areas ants are that you don't even see. In fact, most places where ants exist are places you can't see because they like to be underground a lot. What is this nonsense about there are less than 300 supernova?
So that have been discovered.
Okay, so if you don't know, supernova leave behind really hard to see black holes, or also hard to see neutron stars. Not as hard, but
Usually, if their magnetic poles don't sweep across Earth, you're not going to see them.
And like the ants, I mean, that's not underground, but it's suddenly a very bright object that literally can't emit light anymore. Or it can, but the space-time around it is curved in a way that light can't ever leave that vicinity.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see that kind of
Wait
thing.
a minute, I already established Kent doesn't believe in black holes.
Well,
for no reason.
Here's the thing. In reality, black holes are real. And so, yeah, basically what it is the window of detectability for a supernova, like a dead ant, is relatively small compared to the frequency with which they're created. So, like we said, neutron stars, unless their radiation cones, which are essentially the same as their magnetic poles, sweep across Earth, which makes them a pulsar, hard to see. Black holes, even harder to see, because they don't even really have jets of radiation for the most part. For stellar mass black holes, right? We're not talking about quasars or something. So, yeah. It turns out that it does not take very long before supernova becomes essentially undetectable to humans. Often in the course of, months in some cases, depending on how big and bright the planetary nebula is. Jack of Hearts for £5 says, my favorite Kent line is when he says, I love science, and then follows with a sentence denying science exists or calls it faith. Yeah, that's always fun. Anthony Mendoza for $4.99 says, found your channel about 2 weeks ago, and it's one of my best finds. Helps work past quickly, and I love dinosaurs, so bonus. Keep up the great work, man. Well, thank you very much, Anthony. Or is it Anthony Mendoza? Let me know if it's a or a t, because look, there's a lot of languages that spell that name and then pronounce it differently. But anyway, thank you very much. I'm really happy that you found the channel and that you're enjoying it so much. It's always great to have new subscribers and new fans come in. So here we go.
Let's assume one every 30 years. There are 300 supernova rings. How many years would that take to accomplish all that? 300 times 30? 9,000.
Okay.
Only 9,000 years worth of stars that are blowing up?
Well, first, that's still 50% longer than Ken thinks the universe has been around, so it's still a problem for him. But what Ken...
Proved twice he
What,
just disproved his own theory and doesn't even realize it.
What Ken has there given us is not an estimate for the age of the universe. It is instead an estimate for how long a supernova remnant remains easily detectable from Earth, on average. That's what
We've been
he's given us.
detecting these supernova since the beginning of time, 6,000 years ago. Is that what Kent thinks?
Well, so we do have records of
I mean, how is he doing his math of
I'm not sure.
300?
Well, so it's 300. It's 300 times 30 is the whole thing. He's assuming that there's always been a steady rate of supernovae, and that all of the supernovae that have ever happened have been detected, and that we only have 300 of them. So he's multiplying, which all of those are dumb assumptions, right? That supernovae have always had a steady state. Probably not true. Although for 9,000 years, it probably has been true. So it's a shaky assumption at best. We'll say that. All supernovae remnant that have ever existed have been found. That's a bad assumption. In fact, at the time that he was writing this or saying this, people would find new planetary nebulae and new neutron stars and new black holes and things like this. This was an ongoing project. So we know that we haven't found all of them. You can't just do that simple math. But then, even if it were the case that we found all of them, at best, Kent has estimated the average length of time that a supernova remnant is easily detectable from Earth. Because we know that they become undetectable as time goes, because we've watched supernovas become impossible to find over time. If we look back at the spot, there is no supernova again. Caleb Sherstad for $5 says, Kent, let's make a faulty assumption and use that to show I'm still wrong. Good job, Kent. Yeah, basically. If I make a whole bunch of super generous to my position assumptions, I'm still off by 50%. At least it's not 10 times, which is his normal amount of being off. Or, well, more like, 1,000 times, but hey.
If it's billions of years old, why aren't there more? That's a fair question.
There are more.
There are more. That's the answer. It's just hard to find them.
Are supernovas an indication the universe is less than billions of years old? I think so. Okay?
Okay.
No.
Some people say, well, new stars are forming. No, there are no new stars forming. This is propaganda.
Ooh.
We never see a star form. We'll get into more of that in video 7, about 9 years
Sounds
from
like
now.
projection to me.
By the way, the next video is video 7.
Yay.
This textbook says, red giant stars evolve into white dwarf stars over billions of years.
No, generally speaking, red giant stars turn to white dwarf stars over the course of a few million to a few tens of thousands of years. It's not billions, but whatever.
On the top one, they've got it taking 100 billion years if it's a small one. If it's an average one, it takes 10 billion. If it's a large one, it can only do it in just a few billion years, boys and girls. And the kids are memorizing this and putting it on.
I couldn't read any of that, but I'm pretty sure it was wrong because it's not how long it takes to go between the red giant phase and the supernova phase. But...
Well, he was talking about different classes of stars and how the hotter stars that are larger will die younger.
True, but not...
Which is accurate.
But those really hot stars don't have a lifespan of even 1 billion years in some cases.
Well, I mean, he basically compared relatively cold, medium, and hot stars as opposed to going through the main sequence and in more detail than that.
Yeah, Jack of Hearts.
Why would you do that?
Jack of Hearts in the chat says, if someone sets off a firework, how come we can't see the firework a week later? Yeah, it's the same argument, basically. You say that there have been thousands of fireworks displays that have been set off in this one city, but I can't see any fireworks displays right now. So...
But it says no one has ever seen a star form because the process of a star forming does take longer than the human lifespan of an individual human person. And yet, we could still see it happening.
Every predicted
different stages.
Yeah, has been observed.
Wait, did you say predicted stage?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by predicted? Like a scientific prediction?
Yeah, I mean, we came up with physical models as to how stars could form, and then we made predictions as to what that would look like, and then we went and found it. Yeah.
And Kent did the same thing, right? He made predictions and then looked for them.
No, he did not.
Oh, he just spewed nonsense about not understanding supernova. Okay, just checking.
Swallow it, confirming. Back up for the test. Now, hold on a minute. All of them, though, say it takes billions of years for a red giant to turn to a white dwarf.
No, they don't.
I will not argue about whether red giants turn to white dwarfs. I think they probably do.
I mean, that's good because we've literally seen it happen, but okay, Kent.
But how could they if it's only been a 6,000-year-old universe?
Maybe they were created with an appearance of age.
How long? I want Kent to tell me how long it takes for a star that's in its red giant phase to then go to its white dwarf phase.
He has no idea.
There's a
I
sequence
want him
that
to prove that it's less than a 6,000-year process. Because I feel like it takes longer than that, but I could be wrong. I don't remember.
stars go through as they burn out their fuel. Of course, they're always burning up. Eventually they don't have quite enough gravity to overcome the pressure. And it goes through several stages, but basically it swells up really big and then collapses back, like a marshmallow on a fire. Swells
Exactly
up and then
like
pops
a
back.
marshmallow on a
This
fire.
is called a nova or supernova.
The burning sun,
I would
as
agree.
he said.
Stars probably go from red giant to white dwarf. There's a sequence, and you get into physics books and you study this kind of stuff. The sequence that stars go through, they have a helium flash, and then they slowly, come back around in a cycle and end up a little bitty white dwarf star. And they're all going to say it takes billions of years for this to happen. I don't think so.
Oh.
The Egyptian hieroglyphics back in 2000 BC described Sirius, which, by the way, Sirius is the brightest star in the sky. Good test question. You writing them down here? Brightest star in the sky is the star.
Sol. Sol is a brighter star relative to Earth.
Relative to Earth, yeah.
Star Sirius. They said it's a red star. Cicero, back in 50 BC, said Sirius was red. Seneca described Sirius as redder than Mars. Ptolemy listed Sirius as one of the 6 red stars in 150 AD. By the way, back in 150 AD, they said you can see 1,100 stars in the sky. A lot of people counted or tried to count the stars and said about 1,000 to 1,500. That was the range they always come up with. A lot of people, that's about all you can see with the naked eye. Once you get a telescope, though, things open up just a little bit for you, right? There's a whole lot more than that out there. But today, Sirius is a white star. Now it's a...
Okay, is it a white dwarf star, Kent, or is it a white star?
I think he stuttered there a bit, and I think he was going to say white dwarf, and then he didn't. That's how I heard what he just said.
Okay, because Sirius is not a white dwarf. So,
Right, but I think he was about to say white dwarf and then didn't say white dwarf.
Well, let's see what he says.
That's what I thought.
binary star. There are 2 stars going around each other, like a bolo, like you catch the critters in South America with 2 balls on the end of a string, By the way, John, we got to make that bolo golfing. Did you see that? Remind me about that. That's amazing. We got to do that here for Dinosaur Adventureland. Who cares? Anyway, we have absolute scientific proof that stars can go from red giants to white dwarfs in 2,000 years.
Yep, that's the implication. Okay, Kent. Sirius isn't a white dwarf star. Also, I'm having trouble finding any evidence that anyone found it to be red.
I feel like that's a legitimate thing. I'd have to double check, but I feel like I've read that before, that there were claims of the star changing color. However,
Oh, I think I just
I'm
figured it out.
kind of mad right now because Kent did imply that it went from a red giant to a white dwarf.
Which it did not.
As if you think it'd be hard to see a neutron star. I'm pretty sure white dwarfs are not nearly as bright as neutron stars. Could be wrong on that one too, though.
So it didn't actually take me very long to find out why Sirius has been referred to as red in the past.
Okay.
Sirius is bright enough that it is easily visible low in the sky around twilight. And when it is, it's unsurprisingly red as its light, the blue light gets scattered away and you see a lot of red light. And here's the thing. Sirius was spotted on the horizon around sunrise as a significant timing for the seasons thing, because it was important to know when things like summer started. And when Sirius started to rise right around the same time that the sun did, you knew you were getting into summer in the northern hemisphere. So the reason people talked about the red Sirius is because when it was significant to them to see Sirius is also the time it was red. because it was going through more of the atmosphere, just like the sun gets redder. And Damien, the Red Mage, says, so what school did Mr. Hoven teach? So he, according to him, taught at a school that was started as a church school in, I believe, Minnesota. And I don't remember the exact name of it, but it was a church school that did exist. And how long did Mr. Hoven teach? That is harder to ascertain. He says that he taught for 15 years. I don't think that school was in operation for 15 years. And I also, according to him, he wasn't actually teaching it the entire time that it existed. So that is harder to say. I bet I know more science and I flunked college. It would be hard to know less science, so I agree. You probably know more science. So, hey guys, we figured out why Sirius might have been called red in the past. And we also found out that, no, it's not a white dwarf, because it's a, what is it, a B-class star?
Oh, I don't know. It maybe O, B, or A. I don't think it's O.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, there are almost no O stars out there. I think it's B. It might be A. In case you guys don't know, those are the spectral classes of star, which go from O all the way down to M dwarfs. And those classes were invented by a woman named Annie Jump Cannon, which is one of the best names of any scientist in all of history. Mm-hmm. Annie Jump Cannon. So, thank you, Annie. We'll take a drink to, toast Annie Jump Cannon.
It's an A0.
There you go. A-class star.
Which I think that means it's almost a B, but not quite hot enough. Yeah. But I could be wrong. I don't remember the number after the letter.
Well, that explains why when it's high in the sky, it's bluish white. And also why it's so darn bright, because it's relatively close for a B-class star.
Why do the textbooks say it takes billions of years for this to happen? Yes, sir.
Just a little observation on that little graph on the bottom there.
Okay, let's just search. I want to see how it happens if you just Google how long does a star stay a red giant? About 1 billion years. Okay. Let's see. Click on some things. A few million years in some cases. Let's see. Let's find out some more things. Not all stars do become red giants, but those that do, a few million years. Yeah, so while 1 billion is possible, the 10 billion thing that Kent is once again off by at least 1 order of magnitude, because that is usually his minimum error, is an order of magnitude or so.
About the sizes, the other one, yeah. It says 100 billion?
100 billion.
Oh, they said the whole creation is, or whatever, is 20 billion.
Good point. They say it's 20 billion. Why would they say 100 billion here?
How do they know?
They don't say 100 billion. I'm just taking a giant drink. Nothing says 100 billion, Kent. I can't find anything. And I would love it if this video were available anything other than like 380 so that I could read the damn slides.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Seriously. Even like VHS is usually like 420.
How would you know?
How can you get that?
How would you even know 1 billion?
Yeah.
I think you'd have a hard time knowing something like that,
So what is the
Called
basis?
science and math.
Right. So the basis for this is in fact models of stellar evolution that have been worked out on the basis of physics and math. And then we look for things that confirm our predictions about these things.
Or disconfirm.
Well, yeah. Disconfirm is actually more popular.
It's just, science is science. There's this thing called the science-y method or something like that. I think that Fibonacci guy came up with it. I don't know.
Maya Atkinson says, have you stopped to think that maybe Google is onto him? No, I hadn't thought of that.
In on it too.
Also, Maya, I did buy a pizza. It's currently in the freezer. I'm going to be cooking it immediately after this. Which reminds me, I'm going to be talking about what happens immediately after this when we come back from our break, but that's not still for a few minutes. So.
I can't change that one.
Can't tech.
Okay,
Also, I'm opening a new drink.
Just add a new slide, Kent.
So here we have scientific proof it does not take billions of years for this to happen. It can happen in 2,000 years or less.
Where was the scientific proof? He never listed a single bit of scientific proof at all whatsoever.
That Sirius, which is a white star, but not a white dwarf, was described as red in the past 2,000 years ago, which he actually said 2000 BC, which is 4,000 years ago. But that's okay. We'll let that slide, because that's not even an order of magnitude. But here's the thing, right?
Sirius B is a white dwarf.
Kent, when someone says it takes 1,000,000 years for a red giant to go to a white dwarf, what they mean is it's going to spend 1,000,000 years or so at the red dwarf phase. Not that the transition takes 1,000,000 years, the transition takes a few seconds. And also, how long... Let's just assume that he was right about Sirius. He's wrong, right? But it doesn't matter, because we've also seen other stars go nova. So let's say you pick a star we saw go nova. It was a red giant before, then it went nova, now there's a stellar remnant as a white dwarf there. Okay. How long had it been a red giant? Do you know? Did it start 2,000 years ago? Because in order to take Kent's idea here seriously, he would have to know when the Sirius started being a red giant. Do you, Kent? To quote Ken Ham, were you there, Kent, to watch Sirius become a red giant star? I'm pouring this drink into my glass, and then I'm taking a drink of it.
How do we know that Pluto is a planet and not a dog, says Icarus. Very good point.
It's both. All right. Here we go.
So if anybody tries to use, red giants and white dwarf evolution as evidence for millions of years, you can say, I'm sorry, in spite of all your theories and models, the facts are, it doesn't happen.
No, I'm going to use the Hubble constant. That's what I'm going to use.
Facts are the scientific proof he didn't mention at all that he says he did.
It turns out that all you need to know how old the universe is to be able to measure how far away things are and then use the Hubble constant. That's it. You can just rearrange the equations and you just get a time, and that is the approximate age of the universe within however many significant figures and error margins you have. So, yeah.
Okay. When they study the bumblebee, the size of the bee, the weight of the bee, the size of the wing, it is aeronautically impossible for the bumblebee to fly.
Yeah, we're going to take a drink. Okay. Look, here's the thing. It was the case that until not that long ago, scientists didn't have a great model for how bumblebees flew. It turns out they can just beat their wings faster than we thought. That's it. That's the whole answer. It's not much more mysterious than that. They've got really rapidly firing muscles. And the muscles don't fire by some miracle, right? They follow the normal rules of muscles with, like, electrical charge gradients and ion channels and all that. They're just fast. That's it.
With actin and myosin.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. Potassium channels, all that good stuff. I know, right?
Wow.
It's
crazy.
Basically, Kent's argument here is there is an open question in science, therefore evolution is wrong. Which,
well,
no, not how that works.
So scientists at the time think bees can't fly, but that they do fly, if that's how Kent's going to want to phrase it or whatever. So is he trying to claim that every bee that's... And I think it's just bumblebees.
Yeah, every bumblebee flight is a direct miracle from God.
Those are all just miracles? Is that what he's trying to argue?
I guess. I mean, it's the only conclusion I can...
I feel like he doesn't... Yeah, but he doesn't ever state his conclusions. Other than stating, like, there, I just disproved a thing that he didn't even...
Well, the thing is, I think he knows...
any proof for.
I think he knows that if he's vague about what conclusion you should draw from that, he can rely on you to draw your own conclusion.
He's just always vague. That's the thing. He's always vague.
Okay, I don't care about your studies. I don't care about your theories. I can show you. I can show it to you. Okay, they can fly just fine. Don't tell the bumblebee he doesn't know that. So in spite of their theories, it's just simply not true. Okay.
Oh, that was a joke that didn't land. That was a joke that didn't land.
Another proof that the universe is young.
He doesn't understand science, and so...
No, he does not.
His pathetic straw mans are just obvious. Obvious straw man is obvious.
Oh, hey, we've got 69 viewers. Nice.
Nice.
That Jupiter is cooling off.
Yes. That's take a drink. That's
So
true.
what? Well, if you see an object that is cooling off, that would indicate that it used to be warmer. Follow me so far on that one? Okay.
So far, yeah.
This is going to put some kind of time limit.
On what?
I don't know what it is, but it's not billions of years. If you walked into a room,
Why?
So
On what? How? What are the 19 premises you skipped over
So
to
here-
get to that?
Here's the thing. In a previous episode, we've actually already done the math on this. I wish I remember which one it was. And here's what the math came out to. About 4.5 billion years ago, when the solar system formed, Jupiter would have been a couple hundred Kelvin hotter. Which, I mean, yeah, that's not nothing, but like, so what? Why is that a problem? Why can't Jupiter have been a couple hundred or so Kelvin higher in temperature 4.5 billion years ago? Earth sure was a lot hotter 4.5 billion years ago. And the whole thing comes down to this. Jupiter's internal radiation releases more heat energy into space than it receives from the sun by some relatively small margin in terms of total heat energy on Jupiter. So very slowly it cools down. Eventually, I think it'll hit equilibrium. Not actually positive about that, because it could be that the sun might, go nova before equilibrium is reached. But I think the math works out so that in like a billion or a couple billion years, there's an equilibrium that's reached. Doesn't really matter. The fact is that Jupiter could have been hotter in the past. There's no problem with that.
I found a cup of coffee sitting on the table. And I said, oh, don't touch the coffee. It's hot.
Okay.
And you said, well, how old is it? And I said, I don't know. It's been sitting there for 400 years. That'd be kind of hard to believe, don't you think?
Here's a fun fact, guys. A cup of coffee weighs a whole lot less than Jupiter. Okay. So let's work this out, right? We're gonna actually look up some math here. I know this is crazy, right? So let's go to my main monitor, and we're gonna go for mass of Jupiter in kilograms. We're gonna open up a notepad so we can keep track of this. Notepad. Okay, so the mass of Jupiter is, let's see, 1,898.13 times 10 raised to the 24th kilograms. Okay, now we're going to look up the mass of a cup of coffee. Mass cup of coffee. Okay. Well, we're going to kilograms. I don't want ounces. What good are ounces? All right, so 6 ounces of coffee, fine. So 6 ounces to kilograms. We'll just do that. Okay, so you know what we're gonna call this? We're so 0.17. Let's cut it off there. Yeah, you know what? No, we'll keep all the 0.170097 kilograms. Okay. So we're gonna do something that's we're gonna find the specific heat capacity of helium. Specific, if I can tell, specific heat capacity. Well, we'll go hydrogen because Jupiter is mostly hydrogen. Now, the reason I'm using hydrogen and not water is because I happen to know that it's generous for Kent. Water has a really high heat capacity, so if I assume that the coffee actually has the same heat capacity as Jupiter, it makes the mass easier, and it's super generous to Kent. Okay, so we say that it has, so we'll go with 14.304 joules per gram Kelvin. Okay, so let's pull up a calculator. This is the math section, so I'm just gonna drink for math. It's a new thing. I'm just drinking for math because goddamn it, it's math.
Drink for math.
Okay, so first, oh, this isn't even a scientific. Can I switch to standard or switch to scientific? Nope, that doesn't do it. So here we go. Okay, so 1898.13 times 10 to the 24th is that number divided by 0.170097. So that's how many cups of coffee would it take to weigh as much as Jupiter. Okay. So we're gonna set that aside for a second, and we're gonna work.
Wow.
It's extremely large. It's, what is this? Okay, so that's thousands, millions, billions, trillions, quadrillions, quintillion, sextillion, septillion, octillion. It's 11 octillion cups of coffee weigh as much as Jupiter, which is quite a number.
I gotta say, I would like that much coffee in my life.
Okay, so we're not even going to go into the specific heat capacity because it doesn't matter. Look, the amount of heat that a coffee cup loses in an hour compared to that same rate of heat loss for Jupiter, you can see is going to basically be nothing.
Well,
Plus,
let's not forget that Jupiter has to literally radiate this into space. Coffee is not radiated. It's hardly any of that.
That is exactly what I was going to get to next. Yes.
Away.
So on Earth, the least important part of your heat transfer, it's so unimportant that most heat transfer calculations ignore it entirely, is radiative cooling. So the way radiative cooling works, and we're going to go back to the regular screen here. The way radiative cooling works is everything that has any temperature, which is everything, slowly gives off heat by just emitting photons. So what happens is the various subatomic particles in the substance are all vibrating around. And randomly, they move to lower energy states and give off a photon of an energy equal to the difference between the higher energy state they were at and the lower energy state they reach. That's called radiative cooling. That just flies off into the universe. Maybe it hits something, maybe it doesn't. Now, objects radiate at a specific intensity and peak wavelength dependent on their temperature. Now, on Earth, most heat transfer happens via conduction and convection. Conduction is just what happens, like you touch a hot pan on a stove, heat immediately transfers through the physical contact, and you get a burn. Ouch. Rapid heat transfer. Convection is what you get when, say, you heat a fluid, and then the hot parts of the fluid flow up, bring in cooler parts down to the bottom. It's essentially complicated conduction. That's what convection is. It's conduction with the heat cycle causing, convection cells. Those are much more rapid. Jupiter has to lose all of its heat via radiation, a much slower process. So in fact, when you have many thermoses are actually, they're vacuum sealed, right? So you have a vacuum between the inner wall and the outer wall. That's specifically because radiative cooling is the slowest kind of cooling, and you're basically taking that cooling and making it only radiative for the most part. So Jupiter is inside the world's biggest thermos, outer space.
It's a much more efficient furnace, also.
A thermos is not furnace, thermos. Did
because
I say
it doesn't
furnace?
have
Right.
Because it doesn't have a lid
True.
that will also conduct that heat away too.
So yes, Ken, something that's 11 octillion times heavier than a cup of coffee, that has a much lower, actually the specific heat capacity doesn't matter actually at this point. Yeah, that's isolated in a vacuum and also receiving significant amounts of radiation from a star. It's going to take a whole lot longer to cool down to whatever room temperature for space is. Which I just
The vacuum.
So here's what we're going to do, guys. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to go get myself some fresh bottles of booze. And then we're going to be back. And hopefully it won't take too long. So, here we go. Intermission time. All right, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for sticking with me through the break. I do notice, however, there are about 20 of you have not hit like on the stream, so please do that. It really does help out the channel. And we're going to do a few more channel things before we get into it. First, I want to say a gigantic thank you to all the people who pledged to the Patreon during the pledge drive. We just destroyed the goal. The goal was 400 a month. We're currently sitting well over 500 a month on that one. So thank you guys very much. We annihilated that goal. I also want to say thank you to all my channel members, because you guys are also helping this channel stay on the air, because, well, it does depend on your guys' support, because the ad revenue alone is almost nothing. So you guys are the reason this channel still exists. And so I want to say, after this goes off air, on my Discord server for channel members and patrons, I'm going to be hanging out. We're going to watch some Power Rangers, mostly because it's an excuse for us to do something. Not so much because it's an amazing show and we all have to watch it. It's just a thing to hang out and laugh at and make fun of things, and sometimes we get invested in the story. There are some good plot lines in there.
You do have to be quiet when Scorpina is on screen.
Yes.
It's a rule.
If Scorpina's on screen, you have to be quiet. Yeah. But she's not on screen all that much. She's only in like one season. Well, she's in like 1.5 seasons of Power Rangers. So if you want,
watching, which Power Rangers are we watching
right now? Dino Fury is winning. Poll.
There's a poll.
Yeah, there's a poll on my Discord server. You could go vote on to, and you could. The poll is between Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and Dino Fury. Currently, Dino Fury is winning. So if you,
my vote is for sale, by the way. I voted for Dino Fury, and if you want that to change, you can buy my vote.
There you go. So if you want to do any of that stuff, or you just want to support the channel, then you can. There's links below for Patreon in the description, and there's a join link. Also, I am thinking about potentially looking into how much it would cost to get additional soundproofing and a soundproofing barrier. And so, depending on how much it is, I might try to crowdfund a barrier. So we'll see, or just find it on Amazon and see if I can put it on the wish list or something. But anyway, let's get back to Kent.
Or even sitting there for 4 years, or even sitting there for 4 days. It's not going to stay hot for 4 days.
Yes, Kent. An object 11 octillion times lighter than Jupiter, with the option of convection and conduction, will indeed cool down much, much faster in terms of percentage of total heat than Jupiter. No one is surprised by this.
These planets that are cooling off, Jupiter's like 5 astronomical units from the Sun. Earth is 1. Sun to Earth is 1 astronomical unit, 93 million miles.
Well, that's true, so we'll take a drink.
Mars is 1.5.
Oh my goodness.
He finally said something right about astronomy.
He gets something right, but it's like 3rd grade level of astronomy. Like, I remember my nephew telling me this when he was 6, and I was like, right, that's awesome. You have to pretend like you didn't know that.
So, by the way, Smitty says
Good job, Kent.
DIY sound barrier isn't an option. Actually, that is the option I'm thinking about pricing out. So it would be like me buying like 3 bits of plywood, some hinges, the hardware, and I already have enough sound panels, but also the glue for the sound panels. Work in progress for $1.99 says, let me know when you're up, when you know about the soundproofing. Okay, so work in progress. If you could send me like a Twitter DM or an email or something like that, or a Discord DM, because I'll be honest, I'm not going to remember this message. So, yeah, let me know, because I'm hoping to do a relatively inexpensive option, and if it's cheap enough, I'm not going to fund anything. I'm just going to go do it, right? But yeah, that is one of the goals. Now that the channel is in fact in the black, it is becoming a more and more attractive option, depending on how much that is. So I have to look in. Basically, I just have to go to a hardware store and write down how much 6 hinges, 24 screws and 3 bits of plywood are, and an adhesive canister for spray-on adhesive. That's basically all
I do want to make a comment. I did read from Smitty. He did tell me if I don't change my vote, he'll be my best friend, which made me realize that I'm also selling my spot for best friend. So, as a separate sale, if anyone wants to be my best friend, I'm going for the market price, which hasn't been established yet. So,
Bidding war in the chat.
bidding war on being my new best friend.
There you go. All right, here we go.
Jupiter is 5 times farther away than we are
Okay, yes.
from the sun. So it gets sunlight like we do, but that's not near as effective, okay? It's just too far away. Bottom line is it's cooling off, okay?
That's true. We'll take a drink.
Well,
That is
you
a
can't
bottom line, I guess.
Yeah.
say that this planet is billions of years old. That's not logical.
Why not?
I
6,000,
don't
that
understand the
doesn't
bottom line and then that next statement.
Yeah, that. So the thing is, Kent, you would have to show that likely rates of cooling, the planet would be so hot that it would become a problem for some reason, right? Like, what's the maximum temperature for Jupiter? I don't know. Oh, drink for God's sake. I don't know why Jupiter has to have a maximum temperature, but like I said, when I did the math, it still came out to just be like a few hundred Kelvin hotter. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal.
prove it's 6,000. But certainly if the Jupiter is 6,000 years old, that creates zero problem for the creationist.
I mean, I agree. If Jupiter is only 6,000 years old, it's still not a problem for the creationist. So, I mean, true. I just don't see why it's a problem for anyone else.
Whereas billions would create a problem. Okay.
No.
Jupiter has a moon going around it. The moon is named Ganymede, pictured here on the right.
That's true. Look, I'm getting super generous for the things that are true.
I feel like his pronunciation was A+.
Yeah,
At least A.
Yeah, he definitely said Ganymede well.
Ganymede has a
Better
very
than I
strong
would.
magnetic field.
Does it, though? See, here's the thing. I don't trust Kent about anything. Ganymede.
You don't trust the Denver Post from December 13th, 1996?
No.
Because, wait, then how... Why does it say Holt Earth Science 1994?
Okay. So it
And
does
above
have...
that it says 1996. How is a book from 1994 showing an image from 1996 with a quote from 1996?
So what I'm guessing is that the image is from Holt Earth Science 1994, and the quotation is from Denver Post 1996. That's my guess. Is it Kent is just...
That could make
Because
sense.
here's one thing. The Denver Post is clearly a newspaper. They did not publish this image in a newspaper. Newspapers do not do that, like, full color stuff for, like, science reporting.
I mean, look, it's pretty blurry on my screen. Maybe that's what it looked like in the newspaper, but you're probably right.
So, it is the case that Ganymede does have a magnetic field. It is weaker than Earth's, but it is noticeable. So, okay, let's see what Kent has to say about it.
When the spaceship went through Ganymede's magnetic field, as one of the Voyager 1 or 2, I forget, as they're flying out through their Jupiter probe, they said, wow, look at that, there's a magnetic field around this moon. Now, it's been long known that a magnetic field indicates a hot liquid core, like the Earth has a hot liquid core. Sometimes it
take a
bubbles
drink.
up through the top. We call it a volcano. Well, a strong magnetic field indicates liquid core.
Yes.
Now here you got a real problem because you have something much smaller than Jupiter. It's just one of Jupiter's moons. I don't think, if I don't recall the size.
I mean, it is the largest moon in the solar system. So, I mean, that is something, but okay.
Size of Ganymede, smaller than Mars, I think.
Yeah, but bigger than Mercury.
1,000, 2,000 miles diameter, maybe 3, I don't know. Somebody will correct me on that, I'm sure. Get some
Not me, I don't care.
atheists say, oh, see, discount the whole seminar because he didn't know the size of Ganymede. Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
No, Kent, that is the least reason I'm going to discount this entire seminar. My goodness.
I also don't care about the size of Ganymede.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a moon, and it's, you say, the largest moon in the solar system.
Pretty sure.
I don't memorize that type of level of detail
Yeah.
of moons. So, like, all of it sounds believable, including when he read it had a strong magnetic core. I didn't even question that. You did. Apparently, it's confirmed, but like,
Yeah, it does have.
I'm okay with, because I feel like whatever point he's gonna make is probably gonna be dumb regardless of that.
Oh, I'll make a prediction. This will be our first prediction drink if it comes true. He's going to say the Ganymede is so small that it would have radiated away all of the heat and gone solid like our moon, and therefore shouldn't have a magnetic field. I'm going to say this. In isolation, He's right. That would have happened. But here's the thing about Jupiter and its moons. Tidal heating.
I was gonna guess that.
Sorry. Tides are a thing, Kent. And when you're near something as big as Jupiter, and you have other moons of similar mass to planets basically orbiting in a pretty tight configuration, you get a whole lot of tidal heating. That's why the most volcanic object in the entire known solar system is Io, a smaller moon of Jupiter.
Anyway, Ganymede is still hot enough to have a liquid core and still have a magnetic field. So what does that mean? Well, Denver Post ran an article that said this mysterious moon about Ganymede, it should have cooled off billions of years ago. Well, what would that mean? Well, how could it still have a magnetic field?
Tidal heating.
What the scientists are going to do, they're going to spend more money and send another probe up there to try to figure out, how could this magnetic field survive for millions of years?
Nope, they already know it's tidal heating.
The thought will never cross their mind to question, maybe it's not billions of years old.
So first we're going to drink for a correct prediction, then I'm going to read a super chat, then we're going to talk about it a little bit.
Oh, dumb. I'm drinking because it's also so dumb.
Well, that's fair, yeah. I'll take a second drink for that. 2 super chats. First, from Maynard says for $5 US. Have you seen the YEC vid on SFT's channel about the Ice Ages? It's great if you're looking for a laugh.
Who's SFT?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, so
Who's that?
we'll do some real talk. I've basically been ignoring SFT because he hasn't actually added anything significant to the creationist discourse ever. He's also an abusive little shit.
I believe he owes some people some apologies, and until that happens, I don't know who that is.
He owes me apologies. He owes Gutsick Gibbon apologies. He owes Dr. Dan apologies. Let's see. I'm trying to think of people actually now that I know that he's talked to that I know that he doesn't owe an apology to. The only one I can think of is Jordan from Reason to Doubt. That's the only one. He certainly owes Cindy Lincoln an apology. I almost used up our 1 F-bomb for the stream. Because that's how much I feel like he owes her an apology. So I might take a look at that because you say it's funny, so that might actually make it worth it. But yeah, I mostly ignore him because 1, he's insignificant, and 2, yeah, he owes a whole lot of people a whole lot of apologies. Damien the Red Mage for $5 says, "We're like the grains of sand in the ocean. If God really designed the universe for us, then why can't we currently only live on Earth?" So it's certainly the case that it's hard to conclude that the universe as a whole was designed with a specific purpose of making human life possible. However, I don't think that necessarily negates the idea that it was designed to make life generally possible, and then Earth itself was designed to make life as we know it possible. Like, those things aren't necessarily precluded from that. Now, does that mean that they were? No, it doesn't. It just means I don't think you can necessarily conclude they weren't just on the basis of how hostile the universe is. But yeah, if anyone tells you the universe as a whole was designed just for life, I mean, it's almost entirely extremely hostile to the existence of any life we can even imagine. So, like, I don't know about that. It's kind of like saying, like, your body was designed for mites because there are, like, some eyelash mites living on your body. Like, okay, that's true. There are a small number of eyelash mites on most people's eyelashes, but the entire rest of your body, inside and out, is completely hostile to them. So, like, no, I don't think your body was designed for eyelash mites. Also, standing for truth is one of many examples of the rule that says that if the word truth is in your username, you are probably a gigantic liar or a moron or both. Anyone who has the word truth in their name, I automatically distrust.
Because they tend to be caught lying.
Oh, yeah. So far, the only exception I know is Speak Truth, Seek Truth. But he came up with that back when he was a flat earther.
Well, also, there's 2 truths and they cancel out.
Oh,
math,
okay. It's like negatives, yeah. Okay, here we go. Oh, wait. Did we talk about tidal heating and the whole thing? Yeah, we did. It's fine. We'll just keep going.
That thought will never enter their mind, okay? They're not...
Oh, right. So here's why that thought will never enter their mind, Kent. In order for Ganymede to still have a liquid interior, requires tidal heating, a thing we know exists. In order for the universe to only be 6,000 years old, and for evolution to be false, we had to basically toss out all of science, all of it. Like maybe geography, I guess, gets to stay, but biogeography sure doesn't. So what's more likely? That tidal heating, a thing we know occurs, has occurred, or that everything we know is wrong? I'm going to go with tidal heating, a thing we already know about, has just occurred in a place where we know it occurs. That's my conclusion, Ken. You can go with the everything we know is wrong.
And then testing for that, and then confirming that. Okay.
Yeah.
What tests did Kent do to demonstrate that there is no tidal heating?
He went like this.
Not having heard of tidal heating before, is that it? Does that count?
Yeah, he went with, that seems unintuitive to me, therefore it's a problem for science. That's his thought process.
Allowed to think that. That's taboo. If you think that,
It's
you'll
not
be banned
taboo.
from
No, it's
to
not.
academic Siberia.
It's just
You're not allowed.
you kind of get like a D on your paper in undergrad when you think that way.
And the reason for that is because in
And
order
you don't
to think
continue
that way,
on into that field until you stop thinking that way, because that's not a way
it's
a
demonstrably dumb.
scientist should think.
Right. It's
It's not
demonstrably wrong.
brainwashing. It's you have to use logic, and you have to
Oh, and Vishant,
use all of the evidence. You can't just start at this ridiculous conclusion and try to rationalize your way to it. You have to be objective and neutral.
Vishanti points
Hold
out
on.
that Speak Truth, Seek Truth rebranded to STST. That's good, because honestly, if the name Truth is in your username, you should get rid of it, because, oh boy, is it a red flag.
Call it State Street, STST.
State Street. I kind of like that, actually.
Allowed to think anything against the evolution theory. The planet Saturn has rings around it.
Take a drink. That's true. It does have rings.
That was a very awkward cough, more awkward than mine.
Kent coughs a lot.
But these rings are very unstable. There was an article just in the paper a few days ago.
Opening a drink.
Jonathan gave it to me. I read it on the radio program, and I meant to put it in the seminar. It's one of those things. Just
It's
I
okay,
lost
Kent.
it. I'll find it again though. But they said,
Don't
the
say
rings
things like
around
that, Kent, 'cause
Saturn
it
are
actually makes you,
unstable, and they
less
are,
annoying to me.
some pieces are being pulled in by Saturn's gravity. Other pieces are spiraling out.
Yeah, that's true. I'll take a drink for that, too.
How long can an unstable, fragile system last?
So it depends on the rate of loss of coherence, so basically how unstable it is. But in the case of Jupiter's rings, probably a few million years.
Less than an infinity.
Like when I hatched, it certainly did. These rings certainly didn't exist. Now there weren't any telescopes for me to look through, but I'm pretty sure they didn't exist.
Yeah, but if you look long enough at it, eventually you'll capture enough light, right? Is that how that works?
No, because I would have to store that information, but I don't have an easy way to store the information I get from that light. Because, yeah. Anyway.
You didn't have computers.
No.
Would you agree it should have some kind of time limit?
Yes, I do.
What it is, I don't know, but I don't think it's logical to say it is billions of years old. No.
Actually,
Why not?
goodness. All right, I'm going to take a drink. Okay, hold on. Okay, here's the thing. It could be billions of years old if it's unstable, but at a very low level, right? Like, the sun is unstable over the course of enough billions of years. But that's okay.
I mean, we are literally on a collision course with another galaxy right now.
Yeah, in like...
Impact in, 5 billion years or 2
Something like
billion
that.
years or something like that. But
So-
it's calculated.
Yeah, so...
The relative velocities are known.
And here's the thing, right? The stability of the rings of Jupiter are in fact such that a billion years is way too big. They're not nearly that stable. They will be gone in a few million years, and they could not have been here for more than a few million years. Ken could just look that up.
Another thing with Saturn's rings, they are not going to be lasting forever.
No.
And they haven't been around forever either.
Correct.
Not logical at all, okay? The moon,
Oh, we're just going to go off that. Okay, so here's the
Tell
problem
me
with
you don't know what logical means without
Right.
saying you don't know what logical means.
So this is the analogy I always use. Kent, if you get a zit on your ass 2 weeks ago, that doesn't mean you're 2 weeks old. And I think my oven just went off. So that was a lot faster than I was expecting it to be. Oh well, the oven is now preheated for a pizza that I'm going to put in there the minute we go off air. All right, here we go.
And you can hear about how good that pizza is
On the
if
Discord
you
server.
watch Power Rangers with us after Kent with Bent.
True.
It's going around the Earth. How many of y'all knew that already? The moon goes around, okay?
Yeah.
As the moon goes, you didn't know that,
I
Albert?
did.
As the moon goes around, it's gradually getting farther away.
Oh, that was a joke that didn't land.
Albert doesn't need to raise his hand for that. He's 86 years old. He's known about this for a long time.
Okay, but I've also seen some studies that were like, hey, like 13% of US adults thought that the Earth was orbited by the sun and moon, so like, who knows, man?
Maybe, but when I was, I think, 7 or 8, I stopped raising my hand for that because I'm like, come on, man. You're not talking to me. You're talking to the little kids here.
Yeah.
That don't know this stuff, that are 5 and 6, not me, who's 7. That's literally what I thought because it's... How many times do you have to hear the same thing over and over?
True.
But it's pretty new information for Kent, so...
Thomas G. Barnes, who wrote this article here for Impact article number 110 for Institute for Creation Research many, many years ago. What's that, 1982. He was a PhD in physics. He taught at University of Texas, El Paso. He did extensive studies on the Earth's magnetic field, also, by the way, physics professor. But he said...
I'll be honest, I did not enjoy El Paso the one time I stayed there. It was...
I was told to get through it and not stop anywhere.
Yeah, well,
it was
I had
recommended to me.
Well, so I'll say this. El Paso has a reputation for high crime that is actually not entirely deserved. And a lot of that reputation is because the Mexican city that is essentially touching it is extremely reputation, would say. In fact, Albuquerque has a better reputation than El Paso, which is not deserved because Albuquerque is in fact more dangerous than El Paso.
I do think the one time I drove through, well, 2 times, it's a very beautiful place, El Paso. Driving through it. You get some good, nice views.
Oh, you definitely get some nice views. Many Karen for 15 shekels says, Hovinism, if your oven just went off, how old is your house? Well, so it would take about a half an hour based on my current evidence for the oven to go...
But this house was built 51 years ago. I didn't know that.
OBS is complaining about something or other.
Yeah, I'm getting buffering.
Well, I'm still seeing a high connection, so I'm going to blame YouTube. So if you guys get excessive buffering, let me know.
Look, the Earth is moving away from the Earth, and that's been long known. When I was in Hawaii, I went to the island of Maui, where they got this huge volcano out there, and up on top of this volcano, they have an observatory, a big, huge telescope.
Yes, Ken, that is what happens when you have an astronomical observatory. It's a big, huge telescope. Okay.
The reason they choose Hawaii is because it's away from most other, city lights. Generally, it's going to be dark. Okay, you look out at...
And because it's high up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also important.
I thought he was going to go there.
No.
It doesn't matter. He's not wrong. He's just not complete.
Right.
Walk outside, look up, you see, 30, 40 stars. Drive out in the country, you see 30, 40 bazillion, Well, on top of this observatory, this planetarium in Hawaii, they've got
It takes about a half an hour for the oven to heat to 400 Fahrenheit from room temperature, which, yes, the oven here uses Fahrenheit. Sorry, guys. So, the house is about a half an hour old. Oh, wow, now it's super buffering.
Oh, I was blowing in a dog whistle. Smitty. It didn't work, though. They're still barking.
Well, that's unfortunate. Well, guys,
I mean, it's working now for me, but it's been...
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, now we're back. All right,
so in and out, and I did a speed test, and we're good on all...
So, guys, I'm currently thinking it's YouTube's fault because I'm seeing a consistent, high-speed connection. Like, OBS has always been in the green this entire time, so the only end it could be on really is YouTube's end, because I'm consistently outputting more than enough data to the internet. So, damn it, YouTube! You had one job. Well,
Every
okay,
time I
you have
say
more
I
than
feel
one
like
job.
it's working, then it buffers again. But
All right. Well, we'll see how
I
it
feel like
goes.
it's working. So
I'm gonna keep an eye on my stream page, and when it starts to buffer too much, we might just call it a little bit early. But you know what? We're almost. I mean, we're like at least 3/4 of the way done, so it's not that horrible if we end a bit early.
That they're shooting at the moon. Every time the moon goes by, you know, beep, 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 they're shooting with this laser.
Actually, Maddie
I
from
don't know if it's
Science.
making that sound, but
No, but
you know.
Maddie from Science Side Up has in fact done that very experiment where she shot a laser beam at the reflectors on the moon and timed the return time to determine how far away the moon is to a very high precision. So that's pretty cool. If you guys don't know who Maddie from Science Side Up is, check out Science Side Up. I don't have the link handy, but if any of my mods do, please put it in there. Maddie has awesome content, especially if you like meteorology or climate science. But she also has some stuff on just general thermodynamics, as well as I think it's Saturdays that she usually does her live streams.
I don't know what days.
I think it's Saturdays where she does her live streams. And she takes a look at usually like nonsense videos or articles and takes them apart. It's pretty fun.
Trying to calculate the distance to the moon as the laser bounces back, you know, they catch the distance. Some government project, you know how those things go. Somebody sitting up there making a bunch of money watching this red thing beep.
Project. That's
Yeah,
funny for some reason.
There's no reason that it might be important to, you know, learn things about the universe, Kent.
Also, Matt with Maddie.
Oh yeah, well, Matt with Maddie is on this channel though. So if you subscribe to her channel, you're not going to get any extra Matt with Maddie.
Well, it has been determined, based on real accurate studies, that the moon is moving away from the Earth.
I'll take a drink for that.
Now, how much? Well, you'll find people argue about that. Anywhere from 3 centimeters, which is 1.25 inches roughly, to 3 inches are the numbers that are generally floating around out there. Some people say more. I don't know. There are several things.
Kent, you'd think you would figure it out, since I'm pretty sure you're about to pretend that you've done math.
Why is he saying that there are different opinions on this? Why doesn't he just say what the actual number is?
He doesn't know.
Like a scientist would.
He doesn't know. If he doesn't know, he can just pretend that there's wide disagreement on something, and then it covers it when people come up with different answers than what he gives.
Though. I've never heard that before. I've never heard any disagreement on it. I've always heard it's, if I remember correctly, approximately 1 inch, but
yeah,
I was going to look it up. It doesn't matter.
But if he just pretends that there's disagreement, then he can't be wrong, nor can he be dumb for not knowing because there's wide disagreement.
Why doesn't he just look it up and say it?
Why doesn't he?
What kind of a teacher doesn't teach when they're teaching?
Ben, when has it ever been evident that Kent has actually looked anything up in the entire history of all 82 episodes of Kent with Bent?
It's like he doesn't even know that he's not teaching.
No. Vandalia for 1998 for $5 says, "Here's money to bribe YouTube for a better connection in their algorithm cons with a Godzilla emoji. So we'll drink for the Godzilla emoji. Thank you very much, Vandalia 1998. But yeah, Kent Hovind is, as far as I can tell, he's never looked any of this up ever. At least not in real sources.
Known to be affecting the moon, to cause the moon to get further away. For instance, as the Earth slows down in its spin, from known factors, we'll get into that in a minute.
The known factor being the moon, got it.
The slowing spin of the Earth has a strange way of transferring that energy to the moon.
Because of the conservation of angular momentum, Kent, a thing I know that you know about, because you talk about it a lot and are stupid about it, but you at least know it exists.
But you don't use terms like conservation of angular momentum in a 200-level college course. You say it like you're talking to a bunch of 8-year-olds.
I hate that so much.
That's what he's doing.
I know. Okay, here we go.
You guys that do the flingosaurus all day, you know, you put the 4 kids on there, you get one kid spinning, everybody else flies up.
So you do know it's angular momentum, Kent. Okay, we'll just keep going.
Now, as they come down, their energy is transferred to the next person. They're not even touching, isn't it? It's really cool.
What? No. No, it's not, Kent.
Did he just say what I think he said?
Yeah, I think he said that if a kid flies off of a Ferris wheel because you spun him too fast, and he slows down, other kids who are also flung off are going to speed up. Which, no, they're not. I don't. I'm going to take a
Angular
drink,
momentum is conserved.
but not that way.
Sometimes.
I'm going to take a drink. I can't anymore.
I can't math that out in my head anyway. It just sounds ridiculous.
Flingosaurus machine we've got out here. Come try it. Who cares? Well, the moon, because of the slowing spin of the Earth, is one reason, probably the primary reason, but the bottom line is the result's the same. The moon is leaving us, about, let's say, 2 or 3 inches a year. Some are going to argue, no, it's only 1.5 inches. Okay, I don't care. It's leaving, which means, of course, that it used to be closer. If you bring the moon...
By the way, that train noise that you guys might be hearing, that's on Kent's end.
in closer, you start to create a problem because the moon causes the tides. Now, if you're here in Pensacola, tides are something you have to be a little concerned about. Even though because we're in the Gulf of Mexico and the tides are a little funny the way they work, you know, the moon is pulling up on the water, and the water is trying to bulge up into this...
You don't know how tides work.
No, he doesn't.
I have a PBS Spacetime video that demonstrates you don't know how tides work, because I don't know how tides work, because stinking astrophysicists don't know how tides work.
It is
They don't work the way people tend to think they work. It's incredibly complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Big pile because of the moon's gravity, but it runs into stuff like, you know, continents, and it can't get over it. If there were no continents, if the Earth was just covered by water, there would be about a 200-foot tidal change.
I want to see Kent's math on that, and I never have. He said it so much. I've never seen his math.
In theory, it would be every 6 hours. You'd have a high tide. 6 hours later, these folks have a high tide. So because it pulls up on one side, it bulges.
Here's the thing. The tides are about 6 hours apart. But they're not quite, because the Earth is spinning, and so is the moon. So you have to account for the different rates of motion between those two. So, like, and by spinning in this case with the moon, I mean orbiting. So, like, yeah, there is...
Angular momentum.
Okay, and for $5, Vandalian1998 says, Kent's been endangering kids by flinging them off of playground rides for years. Don't take Kent to the park. Well, I mean, he's certainly endangering kids by letting them play around in ponds with no lifeguards. We know that's the case because one of them already died from that. And
there apparently are fires now happening.
Yeah, so there was a fire at Dinosaur Adventureland in the last couple days. I don't know exactly when. It looks like some vehicle caught on fire, and Kent decided that the best thing to do... Oh! Take a drink. Kent decided the best thing to do was to dump a bunch of dirt from, like, tractors onto it, which is better than nothing. But as far as I know, no one was hurt, so that's good. But yeah, so Kent also likes to endanger kids by having convicted child abusers who are involved in a thing that starts with a P. And letting them do things like sleep in the same bed as the minor unrelated to them that they just happen to bring to the park mysteriously. Yeah, so, yeah. Don't bring kids to Dinosaur Adventureland. Even if you decide you want to go, just to, like, look around. One, go at your own risk, but two, don't bring any kids there. It's really not safe for them. One has already died, and
you hate your kids, I guess.
I guess, but even then, I mean, you're subjecting them to probable criminal abuse.
The perfect crime.
By more than one person. More than one, so we say, child abuser in a way that I don't want to get demonetized for saying, has been known to spend time at Dinosaur Adventureland with Kent's blessing. And like I said, sleep in the same bed as the kid they brought.
Then on the other, you can study tides on your own, but you get a high tide, low tide, and it would be every 6 hours, except at the same time the moon is moving.
Oh, hey,
the moon's moving very slowly
once
once a month around the Earth, so it ends up being every 6 hours and 25 minutes. You get a tidal change from high tide to low tide. Who cares? Anyway, there are two places where you have really high tides on the planet.
Who cares when he's actually getting stuff right about science?
Because it doesn't matter to his point.
That's true.
The highest tide is up in
conclusion's going to be ridiculous, so that's why it won't matter.
Canada, the Bay of Fundy, Nova Scotia. The record tidal change is 103 feet, I believe. Tide came up, went back down 103 feet.
That is a
I
lot.
was out there at the Bay of, I've been there several times preaching up there. It's really neat. You can walk out at low tide and you can walk miles and miles out there, but don't get stuck there because that tide comes in like a freight train. It's incredible. The tide comes in so fast, they actually put boats in front of it and they call it the tidal bore. And you can pay $5 and get on this raft and it's like you're in the Grand Canyon going down the rapids. It's pushing you upriver like 20 miles. It's phenomenal as the tide goes racing up this river. Bay of Fundy. The second highest
That'd be fun.
That would be fun, yeah.
tide is in Anchorage, Alaska. Tide changes 30 feet. 40 feet if you have spring tide where the sun and moon are also lined up. Who cares? Anyway, the fact is the tide is affected because of the moon's gravitational pull. If the moon were closer, the tide would be higher.
Take a drink.
I
That's
just
true.
gotta say, every time he says something interesting, he says, "Who cares?" right afterwards, and that bugs me because that's the thing that I found interesting. Because it's the thing that isn't ridiculously dumb.
Called the inverse square law. We cover more on that on video 6, but if you
This is video
The
6.
inverse what law?
Square.
Just kidding.
brought the moon in to 1/3 the distance, you take the 1/3, inverse it, which means flip it over, and square it. What's 1/3 inversed and squared?
9, Kent.
3 squared?
Oh, he did get it.
3 times 3? 9. There we go.
Hooray.
Gravitational pull would be 9 times greater, not 3 times greater, if the moon were at 1/3 the distance.
Kent understands the inverse square law. I'm going to take a drink for that because it's honestly surprising.
Oh, Ian Chen
Well, if you run all the
official is here. Hi.
Oh, hey, Ian Chen.
Math on this, you'll find out about 1.4 billion years ago, the moon would be touching the Earth.
Okay, so here's the thing. I've looked high and low. I spent an entire night and then an entire weekend looking for any of the math that confirms this, and it's just not true, right? If you wind this back about 4.5 billion years ago, you get the moon being a lot closer, but not in contact, and I have yet to find the math on this, and Kent has never shown it. It's just
right
not
there.
I like how the distance axis is labeled, but doesn't have any units.
Well, it has billion years ago. Oh no, you're right. Distance. That's the other axis.
So yeah, I can't find
But-
any math that would indicate this at all.
Let's not forget the movie Contact.
Because it's on the screen, the word.
It's the words on the screen, and it's a movie worth remembering.
I liked Contact. I know
I do like it.
I know some people who didn't. Look, if you're looking for awesome alien like costume or CGI effects or lots of action, Contact isn't for you. However, if you're looking for an interesting cerebral film that's a sci-fi film that explores things like what does it mean to be human, what would it mean for humans to encounter a non-human intelligence, things like that. There you go. Contact's a good film.
If you think it's too slow, it doesn't really get faster.
Yeah, it might not be.
It's a steady pace. It might be too slow for you.
Look, Contact isn't for everyone. I'm going to just say that. It's not for everyone, but I like it.
As if people haven't. Everyone here has seen Contact.
That
Probably
might not
dozens
be
of
true.
times.
That might not be true. Okay, look. We'll find out.
Jodie Foster is brilliant. Sorry, going on.
Have you seen Contact with Jodie Foster? Poll question. If anyone says no, Bent, you were wrong. All right, here we go.
Oh crap! I misclicked.
Walt Brown says
kidding.
1.2 billion years ago. I don't know. What's a few billion between friends, okay?
Yeah, that's a good question, Ken. It's about the same as a few orders of magnitude between friends.
Between YC friends, yeah.
But he's a PhD in physics, and I would trust his math pretty good. But bottom line is, certainly less than
I wouldn't, because I haven't seen any of it ever, and I've looked.
4.6 billion years ago. Now here the textbooks are teaching the kids the Earth is 4.6 billion years old.
Because all of the evidence indicates it.
I say, what are you going to do about the moon?
Nothing. Because there's literally no math I've ever been able to find that says that it's a problem.
You can't have 4.6 billion years to turn your frog to a prince. I'm sorry, you don't have enough time.
I'm going to take a drink. Humans did not evolve from frogs.
Question.
Yes.
Was the moon orbiting the Earth 4.6 billion years ago when the Earth formed?
So the formation of the Earth was very close to the formation. formation of the moon was very close to the formation of the Earth originally. It was probably only off by like maybe a few 100 million years. So not
relative
quite.
to the time between then and now, it's essentially around the same time.
Yeah, basically, it's not a big deal. Lloyd Atheism in Japanese for 500 yen says, I like my AIGs with a side of a bag of sausages. We'll take a drink for that. Silver Harlow said, I had to put it no in the poll because I saw Contact, but I was by myself, not with Jodie Foster.
I guess I got to change my vote because
I also did not watch it with Jodie Foster. That's
I too didn't watch it with her.
I would love to, though. Jodie, if you ever watch this and you want to watch Contact with me, can I call you Jodie? I feel like we're close enough that I can call you Jodie on the basis of literally nothing.
Foster, please join us on a Seabed Show episode.
Yeah, we'll watch Contact. It'll be great.
Can you get the rights to Contact so we can show it, please?
She probably can't.
She's more likely to be able to than I am.
True, but she still doesn't own them.
No, but she has more money than me.
That's true. And more pull with the studio, presumably.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
In spite of the fact we also don't see it happen, okay? There's not enough time for it to happen. So these big numbers they throw out, the 4.6 billion years ago for the Earth, I say, I don't buy it.
Okay. No one's
Well,
selling
some people
it.
say, well, don't you think maybe the moon was torn out of
Guys,
the Earth?
I'm convinced. Kent doesn't buy it, so I don't
Yeah.
think I buy it either.
Kent's incredulity is the best argument.
Behind the Pacific Ocean?
What?
Well, let's see. The Pacific Ocean averages about 2.5 miles deep.
Yeah, okay, I've never heard anyone say that the moon was... that the Pacific Ocean exists because the material that used to be there formed the moon. That is a stupid take, and Kent is right to not take that seriously.
The moon is 2,000 miles in diameter. No, I don't think the moon pulled out of the Pacific Ocean, okay?
Kent, you would also have to give, like, volume of that rock that was removed when you say that it's only this much deep. Like, you have to give the surface area so we can work out a volume. Whatever, it doesn't matter. It's just Kent being technically right and giving the worst possible answers. It's like I saw him once try to defend the globe Earth versus the flat Earth. And it all just basically came down to, that's dumb. Like, well, yeah, it is, Kent, but you have to explain why. You can't just say
I don't want to
it.
watch that because I might become a flat earther
Seriously.
if I hear Kent argue in favor of round Earth.
2.5 miles deep. There's not near enough dirt missing there to make the moon, for one thing. And the moon is almost perfectly round. The Earth, because of its spin, it bulges at the equator like I do a little more and more these days. But
Joke that
the
didn't laugh.
moon is nearly perfectly round. That's not going to happen from something pulled out. It's going to be an angular chunk, okay?
Unless it's molten, Kent. There's this thing called hydrostatic equilibrium. The moon's at it.
There's all kinds of mathematics that will say the moon did not originate from the Earth.
You're talking about
See,
things
it's
like
long been...
gravity?
Yeah, gravity.
Gravity.
And also, Kent, no one is really thinking that the moon originated entirely from Earth. Current best idea, our current best model, is that a body about the size of Mars hit the proto-Earth, and some of it got incorporated into Earth proper, and some of it spun off into form a ring, which eventually coalesced into the moon.
No, and the moon is receding. So how does the evolutionist answer this? Well, they got to come up with a theory that maybe it got torn out of the Earth for some reason.
No, they don't.
That's long been proven wrong.
I don't know if it has, but it doesn't matter. It's not the leading explanation.
But there's amazing how some people are still teaching that to the kids. To try to, and if you bring up the receding moon in a college class, probably the teacher's going to say, well, maybe that proves the moon originated on the Earth.
No, they won't.
Has Kent ever been to a college before?
No, he hasn't. We know that for a fact. Okay, that's not true. We know
Has
for
he
a
ever
fact
seen a movie that has a scene in a college,
So
even in fiction?
We know for a fact that he went to a college and didn't graduate and then transferred to not a college. So
No one in a college has ever said that. No professor.
He seems to have spent like about 6 semesters in a college doing undergraduate. So by the way, Bent, not everyone has seen Contact. Only about half the people here. Yeah. So we'll take a drink for Bent getting it wrong like an idiot. All right, here we go.
That'll be their answer.
No, it won't.
They better study the history of that. Not true. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the moon was
thought of that. in their studies.
What they might do is say, hey, can I see your math on that? And then when you don't produce any, because as far as I can tell, no one ever has, they'll just say then, all right, well, there's no reason to think that's true.
Around just above the surface of the Earth, you know, and that, of course, explains what happened to the tall dinosaurs. They got mooned to death. Okay?
Take a drink for a bad joke.
I don't mind that joke.
Short
but
period
it
comets are
didn't
flying around through space. These comets are continually...
All right, we do not have time to get into short period comets because that's a whole thing. We've only got a few more minutes before we hit that 2-hour mark, which is where I like to cut things off. So, here's what we're going to do. Vince, do you have anything that you want to plug?
No.
Okay. So, let's see. On the 19th, episode 2 of The Jewish Matt Powell will be coming out. On the 21st, I have no idea. Not a clue what's happening. Something probably. Let's see. The 24th should be Jackson with Jackson. We'll take a look at the dealings and goings on of Dr. Charles Jackson, Bad Jackson, as we call him on the show. I have confirmed with Jackson that he does not have any plans, although, you know, sometimes that doesn't work. So let's see. Thursday, the 26th, should be the next update to my collaborative speculative evolution project. 6 new organisms, 6 new pieces of art, 4K definition, the works. I say that it's probably going to be that day because I actually only have one more piece of art, which is by far the most time-consuming part of the project that I need to do, and that should be done by Thursday morning, in which case I should be able to make sure everything's up on the World Anvil probably on Thursday, and everything recorded probably on Friday, which is more than enough time for me to upload during the weekend and schedule everything. So yeah, if you're a fan of the Speculative Evolution project, do look forward to the 26th, because it should be the next update. I'm sorry that they are so few and far between, but quite frankly, they take a really long time. And, well, the algorithm kind of hates them. So there's... I can't prioritize them as much as I would like to. I really love the project, and I wish I could do a lot more of it. But unfortunately, it is what it is.
I changed my answer. I'm plugging Jack's Twitch channel.
Oh, there you go.
Subscribe, like and follow and subscribe, and just send him all your money to while he plays video games.
Maybe not all of it. Send all of it to
all of them. All of the money.
No, send
send it to Damper.
Send half to me and half to Damper. Oh, we'll drink the rest.
Send some to like probably your bills and stuff, but then of the extra money,
right?
You know, send some to Jack, send some to Dapper. And again, my vote is still for sale, and so is my best friendship. So you can send me money too.
All right. I think that's it for stuff that's coming up, guys. Again, please do consider joining the channel or joining the Patreon. Both of them will get you access to the Discord server, where I'm about to go hang out in just a few minutes after I put a pizza in the oven. And we're going to watch some Power Rangers and hang out and just do, like, you know, random after show stuff. Guys, oh, Ken's definitely smarter than me, says Proper FPV. Yeah, just no. No, he's really, really not. I debated Kent, and by the end of it, he was just sitting down, shutting up, and listening to me, and asking the occasional question for clarification. Yeah. As far as I know, it's so far the only debate where he's just shut up and realized he has no clue what he's talking about and decided to just ask questions for his own edification.
I think he was thrown by the idea of not knowing how to identify a skeleton as a dinosaur or not.
Yeah, in a debate about what dinosaurs are. All right, guys.
As Dr. Dino, that's it.
Here's our end credits. Oh, one thing is, this week's Power Rangers Jungle Beasts, which is the RPG game that I run, has been postponed. We will be playing on June 1st instead of next week. There will be no particular stream on Top Hats Off. But here's the end credits. Before you go, I want to take a minute to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or more. Before Tovand, Cynically Skeptic, Denny5252, Ian Chen, John Ackerman, Landon Knoll, Iapetus, Mabbity Babbity, Sphincter of Doom, Star Runner, and the Venerable Bean. Without my channel members and patrons, this channel simply wouldn't exist as it does now. You certainly wouldn't be getting up to 3 videos a week. You'd be lucky to get 1. So, if you're interested and you can afford it, check out my Patreon link in the description below or the Join the Channel button. Both of them get you access to the special patron and member-only Discord server where I like to hang out. And at higher tiers, you can also get access to other things like your names in this credit, video requests, and more. No matter how much you pledge, you always get early access to my videos, and as of the time of this recording, that's about 10 different videos that you could have access to. If a monthly pledge isn't right for you, there are always other ways to support the channel. I have a merch store linked in the description. There's also an Amazon wishlist link there. And if none of that's right for you, and you just want to support the channel without spending any money, just liking these videos, commenting, and sharing them on social media goes a long way.